All right, let's see if this thing is on. Looks like all the lights are green. The gauges are go. We should be good to go with this one. Sorry for the late notice, but it is what it is. I'm sitting over here battling the lefty nutbags on X, and yeah, it's something. Let me get the chat fixed up here. It's got to be, where are we at here? Live stream chat. Pop that chat out. Actually, yeah, let's pop that chat out. Pop the chat out. Pop the chat out. That even sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? Pop the chat out. We're going to make you a live chat. I'm going to grab that information. We're going to go on over to the wire. Actually, not the wire, but chat one. I'm going to pop that in there. And okay. And now things are better. Things are better. I'm going to go ahead and wait a little bit for people to pop in here. Like I said, this is kind of last minute. I just don't know. I think it feels like, and for the replay crew, I will set this back. I'll put a little thing in the video description telling you the time until I can get this fixed up so that it's gone, that kind of thing. But watching this, it all looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. I think that the place that we have to start is, I hate to say it, but over 20 years ago, back when old B-Rock was nominated to be a president. and watching all of the things go completely wrong. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this because you guys should be able to see the chat a lot better now. There we go. If you're here, do me a favor, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and let me know that you're here, and I will be happy to talk to you about it. But basically, we need to go back over 20 years. I think 20 years is a good number because what we have to realize is that today's Democrat Party is not the Democrat Party from 20 years ago. And I know there's somebody out there on the left. I know there's a couple of you lefties in here right now watching going, "Durr." And I hate to say it, but you shouldn't be saying that because you're not better. You are so much worse in so many ways that it's absolutely kind of insane in the membrane because the things that you're supposedly voting for, or the things that you are being avid sheeple about, are not good things for a country that wants to survive past 250 years. In fact, it does the exact opposite. Now, we could call you communists, or we can call you socialists, or we could call you Democrat socialists. We could call you all sorts of things. But names never did anybody any good. So let's just make this as simple as possible. We're going to do a very quick deep dive into the Democratic Party's biggest blunders over 20 years. But I think it's important to understand that Democrats are not the same as they were in 2007. You know, this party has undergone significant changes in its ideological center. Voter coalition, demographic makeup, and the policy emphasizes over the past near 2 decades, while core elements like support for social safety nets, civil rights, government intervention in the economy, they persist. The balance of priorities, the internal power dynamics, and the base have shifted markedly. It's often described as a leftward move on cultural and social issues, and a greater emphasis on identity, equity themes, kind of alongside a reoriented toward more educated urban and professional class voters, which basically means academia. There are some ideological shifts, and do me a favor, guys. Somebody give me a 5x5. But I've been playing with the microphone the past few days, and I want to make sure my sound is actually halfway decent. I've got it cranked all the way up on my side, but the furthest I can reach back is around 2007, and the reason is because that's when old B-Rock made all sorts of, he made all sorts of promises that he never kept. It's just the truth. He never kept them. But it kind of left that whole spray and pray mentality that the left has, and let it fester, this wound that he created in our country, and let it fester into what it is now. In 2007, the Democratic Party was more ideologically balanced internally. There's a lot of data from around that time that showed liberals make up roughly 40% of Democrats. It's kind of like there's like a following of a period of steady but gradual increase in liberalism from the early 2000s, but the late 2010s and into the 2020s, liberals became the outright majority. The Democratic Party is dead. It's the Liberal Party now, and the liberals should understand this, because if they don't, then they can't understand how badly they're damaging the nation. I I hate to say this, but this kind of reflects like a broader leftward trajectory on issues like race, climate, immigration, social culture matters, and unfortunately there's a greater emphasis on systemic inequality, gender, LGBTQ, XYZ rights, and environmental justice, like you can give justice to the environment. It's just always a word salad with these people. Now, there's been other research, and their analysis actually confirms that both parties are polarized right now. But Democrats moved modestly left overall, while the Republicans kind of shifted more sharply right. The party's platform and rhetoric evolved from more centrist or third way, kind of like a Clinton era, Obama era type things, towards incorporating progressive demands, and this was influenced by movements like Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, and believe it or not, the Sanders wing, Bernie Sanders, did a great amount of damage to America, but by the mid 2020s, maybe post 2024 election, the reviews kind of highlighted perceptions that the party had veered too far left, and we're seeing this today, too far left on cultural issues, and it contributed to some major electoral challenges, kind of like old school Democrats now being forced to support the agenda of the left wackos, the purple hair freaky people out there. And it's kind of scary, because the demographics of this party now are very weird. They're very wonky, and they make no sense whatsoever. Once again, guys, do me a favor. Let me know that you're there. I know you're listening, lefties. I know you're listening. Put something in the chat. I'd like to hear from you. I believe in listening to both sides of the story. I won't form any opinions. I only know what I know right now. Change my mind. But the composition of the Democrat Party, or Democratic Party, depending on how you really want to say it, the coalition, it's transformed more dramatically than the Republican one. In the 2020s, the share of college graduates, in the Democratic coalition roughly doubled, for basically like 22%, from the mid 1900s to 45% by 2024. The party became the home of highly educated urban, suburban professionals, often in knowledge and the economy sectors. They came from the knowledge base and the economy centers. And it's funny, too, because you would think that people coming out of college would say and do and act like an educated person and not like a left-wing nutbag. I mean, and I hate to say that because, God, that name calling. To me, name calling is the last tool of the week. But it's just gotten so insane that it's indisputable at this point that the sky is green and the grass is blue and 1 + 1 = 5. And that's the way they want you to think. Because if you don't think that way, then you're wrong. And it's time for you to be, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's time for you to be canceled. William Smith, good to see you, bro. I love the name. If you know what William Smith is all about, not this guy, but the actual, like William Smith from the past, from the 1700s, then you know it's a good name. Now, the other thing that's changed inside the Democrat Party is, race and ethnicity. Now, the party grew more diverse, which is what they really wanted, with non-white voters rising from 31% in the 2000s to 43% by the mid-2010s. This included strong support from the Black, the Latino, the Asian American voters, alongside a shrinking white working class share. So the traditional old guy, middle-aged, white male used to be what the Democrats were about, but they changed all of that. It's kind of weird that they would like that. Almost kind of changes the values, unfortunately, but it did. And then there were religious and some other factors too. You know, Democrats became less religious, you know, more urban, younger in some segments, and more female / LGBTQ alphabet soup aligned. You know, the coalition increasingly resembled a barbell, you know, affluent educated whites plus radical minorities, you know, with losses among non-college educated whites and some working class groups. But, you know, in contrast, Republicans gained among non-college whites, rural, ex-urban voters, and certain religiously affiliated groups, you know, and this realignment accelerated after 2008, 2016, and especially post-2020, with notable de-alignment of working class and some non-white voters for Democrats. So basically, the Democrats kicked all of the white working class guys who had supported them all the years out of the party. You know, and you know, there were some key drivers for change, and you know, basically post 2008, you know, economic and political fallout. You know, the financial crisis and slow recovery alienated some traditional working class supporters, while the rise of progressive activism pushed cultural, economic, leftward priorities. So they kind of snuck in there. Those blue-haired freaky people just kind of snuck in there with their touchy-feely tentacles and started making things happen that made them happen, and then their group would be happy, and then it's utopia. But the problem is, you know, there were some major demographic changes. You know, the broader U.S. changes. You know, they favored Democrats in like metros or metro areas, but created tension in the rural areas. You know, by 2024, 2025, you know, the post-election analysis pointed to these changes contributing to the losses, with calls for renewed focus on recapturing economic populism and working class appeal without abandoning core progressive commitments. So what they wanted to do is, or what they want to do now is, they want to get all those white blue-collar workers that used to support them, like the unions and such, to join in their reindeer games. And it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. Look at the Kamala Harris debacle, you know, things of that nature. But, you know, I guess, you know, I put in the chat, I put in the description of why the left is wrong about everything. Everything they do is wrong for you. It's wrong for America. It's wrong for, it's wrong for the government. It's wrong for the citizenry. It's wrong for the voting bloc. It's wrong for just putting food on your table. It's so wrong. You know, and I can list things. I can name things off, you know, I mean, how quickly we forget, you know, what was it? 2009, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. This was Obama, right? This was an $80 billion package aimed, it was aimed at rapid creation of, you remember this? Shovel-ready projects. You know, the economists all agree that it reduced unemployment and boosted GDP. But It was smaller than the advisors told them to go. They actually recommended going 1.8 trillion. And this led to a historically slow recovery. You know, unemployment stayed above 8% for 3 years during his last 4 years. You remember those years? You know, the middle class just got hollowed out, and there was this rising level of inequality, even though the middle class became the lower class. You know, it's basically, you know, the critics across the spectrum noted that this was a misallocation, and a pivot to other priorities like healthcare was going to be what they needed to do to get all the distractions off of this. Unemployment at over 8% for 3 years. Yeah. Gee, I wonder why they wanted Captain Red Tie to be the president. I wonder why. And to be clear, guys, I know that this live stream will not get a lot of traction. I know that it won't, because people don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear how bad the Democrats really are. You know, if I was a religious person, I would call them evil, because they do these things and they do them with intent. There's a reason they're acting this way. Most don't even know what it is. I truly don't understand what it is, but I know that it is not the right thing to do. Under Biden, 2021, American Rescue Plan. This one actually passed on party lines amid the COVID recovery warnings from economists about overheating, basically the economy, you know. And this thing contributed to inflation peaking at 9.1% in mid-2022. This was the highest in 40 years. Under Biden, our inflation rate is the highest in 40 years, with basically like cumulative price rises between 20 and 21% during Biden's term. The recession that was transitory. Remember that? Why do we keep forgetting all of these things? Why do we keep forgetting all these things? Real wages fell. You know, core inflation. The drivers were a tight labor market and deficits. You know, even as rates fell later, you know, the voters' perception of Bidenomics, remember that one, remained deeply negative, with polls showing persistent disapproval at greater than 35% on the economy. You know, and then there was like this broader shift away from the working class economic focus. You know, Democrat strategies like, you know, dipsticks like Chuck Schumer, you know, they made comments on trading blue-collar votes for suburban moderates, and post-2010 emphasis on professional class priorities correlated with de-alignment of working class. We support the working class, but don't you know, we don't want anything to do with you. It's all a big game. It's all a big fat lie. You know, Will Smith says both parties are disastrous for us. What's the solution then, Will? What's the solution then? Because I think in this case, it's, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and the lesser of two evils may just apply. You know, it was bad. It was bad, you know. And then what do we got? What do we got here? The Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. The thing that was designed in a back room by nothing but Democrats. No Republican was invited to even do anything about it. It was just brought to the floor. And it promised lower premiums, you know, keeping your doctor. Remember that? You can keep your doctor. You can keep your plan. Yeah. They were just going to bend the cost curve. You know, it expanded, covering 19 to 20 million more insured initially, and reduced uninsured rates. The rollout was disastrous. It was awful. They didn't plan on anything going right whatsoever. It was all a big game to them. And they had later admitted years later that it was just a big fat game, that they knew it wasn't working, and that they knew that it was going to cost Americans more money. It's pretty crazy, man. It's pretty crazy. It's what was it? I think the ACA levels was like $232 a month in 2013. And then by 2026, it was $625 a month. I know people that are under the Affordable Care Act that pay $1,300 a month. I'm a retired Marine. I pay about $176 a quarter. How is that even possible? And I have some of the best health care on the planet. Basically, there was a lot of lags. And it actually kind of went to the midterm losses that year. They tried to fix it with some enhanced subsidies, but it just basically the whole program ran out of steam. Looks like a Little Dry Creek is here. Hey, all, at work listening to you. Thank you. I appreciate you, man. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button. I appreciate you. And then we got to talk about immigration. And believe it or not, this one's actually kind of short and sweet. Immigration and border policy, especially under Biden, there was like instantaneously a flip the switch. Oh, Captain Blue Tie there, just flip that switch, reversing the prior deterrent policies set forth by our current president. He ended the Remain in Mexico policy. He paused all wall construction. He conceded with, the record south border encounters, 8.7 million more people at the southwest border, and then 10.8 million people nationwide between 21 and 2024. This included surges in families, unaccompanied minors, strained cities, and this actually, there's links to the fentanyl flow through this because of human trafficking. Although it's not the sole cause for fentanyl. The gotaways are estimated in the millions, but public trust had already been eroded. And this ranks among the top voter concerns that people had in 2024. It's just insane and I hate to say we can't blame Biden for all this, because Biden was just some dipshit that his brain was gone, auto pen all this stuff. We know what happened, but it were the people that were in his administration that were pulling all the strings, that he was just the puppet. They were the puppeteers. It's amazing how they all just kind of like, and then when we want to ask them questions, I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But there were other things too that the Democrats have done that are more public, that pretty much destroy them at face value. You've got and it's always hilarious to me, but sad at the same time, how we see these foreign policy and national security mistakes that are made by the left that are never made by the right for some reason. Does everybody remember Libya? Does everybody remember Libya? No. What happened in Libya, Cal? Let me tell you. You got 2011. We had what they call the Libyan intervention. That was Obama's little game right there. It's he sent in the Marines to blow these people up, and then eventually had a few feet on the ground, but not a lot, just enough to say he did it, and then get them out before anybody got damaged. But he did this under the auspices of preventing atrocities, and he had a responsibility to protect the Libyan people. And this did lead to Gaddafi's fall. you know, but it also contributed to the state's collapse, civil war, a migration crisis, an ISIS foothold. And it's widely reviewed as underplanned with no stable post-regime strategy. There was no plan to get out. There was no plan to get in. No, just go there, mess them up for a while, and then let's get the rebels to take over the country. And I hate to say this, but this was all just because Gaddafi wanted to go back to the gold standard in his country. Can't have that. Just can't have that now, can we, on the global stage? And there was Syria. Remember, you guys remember the red line in the sand under Obama? You know, the threat of force over chemical weapons that just wasn't enforced. You know, this was signaling weakness and actually emboldened adversaries. We had Assad, Russia, Iran. They all grew a pair after Obama said, "Not on my watch." And they did it anyway. And Obama said, "Maybe not on someone else's watch." This actually happened. This was real. Then you've got the JCPOA. You've got Iran nuclear deal. You know, this was intended to curb Iran's program via sanctions and relief. You know, the critics, they noted that, you know, Iran advanced enrichment post-deal elements and continued regional proxy activities. Yeah. Basically, we just gave them $1 billion on in a Learjet on a pallet that we unloaded ourselves. Pretty sickening. Don't forget about the Afghanistan withdrawal. That was Biden. Yeah. Chaotic, rushed. Abandoned equipment. 13 U.S. service members died. Sickening. 100% sickening and should never be happening. Don't forget about 2020, you know. Defund the police. Don't forget about that. You know. Don't forget about the email servers. The catastrophic mistake. You know, and unfortunately, they have some governance patterns that are very easily trackable. You know, repeated executive actions, you know, that face legal reversals and accusations of overreach. Don't forget the scandal, like the IRS targeting of conservative groups. That was Obama's era. You know, and then the prolonged COVID restrictions, school closures. Absolutely sickening. Absolutely sickening. I think if you take anything from this live stream, which will turn into a video all by itself, maybe I'll download it and get rid of the live stream at some point and then just turn it into a video. We do have the State of the Union tonight. The left will be in full freak out mode. They've already got the new Virginia wolf in sheep's clothing, Spanberger. She's going to make the rebuttal. I think they've got somebody lined up to do like a Spanish version of that because they know that the Spanish speakers here in America don't believe in them anymore. It's all quite sickening at this point. And to Will Smith's point, there's a lot of people that would think and say that both sides are bad. I'm an independent. I'm neither a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a registered independent. I would ask them to take a harder look and see what is being done instead of sitting on the fence. Because anybody who says that both people just super suck, they both suck, but offer no solutions. Yeah. I think it's time we get off the fence. Looks like Donna Gibbs showed up It is so hard to even explain politics in a way that gives my kids hope now. Donna, your kids should stay out of politics 100%, but they should also know that they can come to you and ask questions. Because the girlfriend has an 18-year-old son who went into a college preparatory high school that is very left-leaning, and went to a college which is very left-leaning. And he says some things that are so far out there that anybody in politics would go, whoa, what did you just say? Because there are people that are so far to the left that our youth are listening to, that our young adults are listening to. And there is in such a deep echo chamber that they don't get to hear the voices of anyone else. So I think it's just important that your kids understand that they can come to you and you can answer their questions and give them adult guidance. I think that's important. And for those of you on the left that are watching or listening, we don't hate you. The independents and the right, they don't hate you. Very few independent voters now believe in anything that has to do with the Democrat Party because they know that it's full of liberals. It's not democratic at all anymore, because if it were democratic, then there would be a vote and then we would respect that vote. But instead, that's not what's happening. And my Democratic followers know that to be the fact. I actually had somebody on X today try to tell me that our president wasn't doing things right. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? Let me pull it up here. Let me pull it up here because there's always some smart-ass remark. So there was a post, and I'm going to close with this because I've got to get supper made. There was a post that says, the brief of the Gang of Eight senior members in Congress has concluded after about 40 minutes. If you guys didn't know who the Gang of Eight are, they are members of Congress that have a direct, it's not control. They get input directly from the intelligence community on things that are happening, kind of like an attack on Iran. So they held a little meeting, it was 40 minutes long, and according to this, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said at the end of the meeting, quote, "Look, this is serious. The administration has to make its case to the American people." And see, that's what a liberal would say. Because if the Gang of Eight just had information about something that could or is near-term future going to happen, then they wouldn't say things like this if they were Democratic. But this is a liberal statement. So, I reached out to this gentleman. He's got 90,000 followers. Let's see, where are we at here? He's a diplomatic correspondent. Looks like he writes for the Jerusalem Post and the I-24 News. And I said, not according to the law, because I was responding to Schumer's statement. When the president acts, and he will act with the full rights given to him under present law and the Constitution. This is what the Democrats fear the most: a lawful president. It's you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to share this with you so that you know what kind of craziness is happening in our world. I'm just going to share that with you right there. And so I got some responses. John Boy says, yes, the lawful convicted felon, Article 1, Section 8 might prove you wrong. You might want to go back and read Article 1, Section 8, John Boy. I told him he was a tiny little person. I was being snippy. I just got to the point where I'm tired of these people. And It's always, it's just the snark. These are the same people that have never been punched in the face before, that they think this is the most powerful thing on the planet. They think that typing into this stupid little box makes them powerful. It doesn't. And then Mo says, your savior is not a law-abiding fellow. My reply was, not a savior. That's stupid. Stop saying stupid things. He's just a president. I know you're not used to presidents acting like a president, but you'll have to get used to it. The seed of freedom has been re-sown. We are not going back to the foolishness that the left brought us to. And of course, the name calling has to start. So Mo says, so you're clearly a fool. I guess this was supposed to be sown. You're clearly a fool. I just got, the grammar police just got me. The grammar police just got me. Yeah. Yeah. This is what these people do. This is their world. This is what they think matters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. So, all right, guys, I think that's going to be about it. I want to thank the people who are still here for watching. If I do turn this into a video, I will make sure to say, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something. I may turn this into a video. We'll see what happens. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. And don't forget to watch the State of the Union tonight. It's going to be a show. It's going to be an absolute show if the Democrats get their way. Stay safe. Have a great day, and I shall see you when I see you. Bye-bye.